Binance is really facing the heat right now from regulators all around the world. It really seems like they're teaming up to bully Binance on the playground. But the million-dollar question on my mind is, what does this mean for Binance, CZ, BNB, and other crypto exchanges around the world? Like, does this mean CZ is headed to jail like those BitMEX executives? Remember that saga? Anyways, I wanted to know the answer to these questions, so I spent hours digging through all the source material that I could get my hands on. And the end result is this video, which I'm pretty sure is the most in-depth analysis of this Binance saga on all of YouTube. If you give it a watch, I'll take you on a trip around the world to different jurisdictions, help you cut through the noise, and I'll also share how I think this will impact you as a Binance user or BNB investor. So if that's something you care about, then strap in, my friend, and let's dive right in. Now, I'm pretty sure most of y'all watching this have either used Binance before or still do. But even if you don't, you can see why this whole ordeal is impactful, because Binance is by far the largest crypto exchange and their tentacles are far-reaching. I mean, if you look at this chart from the block, of all the crypto-only exchanges, Binance dominates in terms of volume. They actually reached over $1 trillion in monthly volume earlier this year. So it's not crazy to think that what happens to them will have ripple effects around the whole crypto world. That's why when we see a whole slew of regulators attack them, it's time to pump the brakes and take a closer look. So let's now take a trip around the world to 8 different countries, and I'll share with you the highlights of what each regulator said, so you can get a better understanding without having to read all the announcements yourself. So the first stop on our trip is Germany. Back in April, their version of the SEC called BaFin put out a warning for Binance stock tokens, saying that those were securities and required further filings to offer them legally. Binance appealed this notice, but BaFin decided to keep it up. Keep in mind though that this action is only against that one specific trading product and doesn't restrict anything else that Binance offers. So for our next destination, let's head on over to Canada. And we saw many news outlets mention that Binance is facing scrutiny over there, but this is really only in Ontario, where they recently changed their laws regarding crypto. So Binance just made them a restricted region and decided not to serve them anymore. But the rest of Canada is still available though. Alright, so on to our third stop, and that is Japan. If you remember, Binance actually moved there in 2018 after they were pushed out of China. But Japanese regulators weren't so friendly either, so Binance moved again shortly after. Recently though, the Japanese Financial Services Agency, or FSA, accused Binance of operating without proper registration, which may be trouble because Binance did say in 2020 that they would restrict access for Japanese residents at a later date. But it's been quite a while since then, and they still haven't done anything like that. So this may lead to a protracted legal battle in Japan that we'll have to keep our eyes on. But while we wait for that, let's fly on over to the UK. And this one may throw you in for a loop, so listen closely. Because in 2020, Binance had plans to launch a UK-specific exchange that would be operated under a separate entity called Binance Markets Limited. This is similar to what they do in the US with Binance.US, by the way. But they haven't launched it yet, and for some head-scratching reason, the UK FCA regulators decided to issue a statement saying that Binance Markets Limited is not permitted to undertake any regulated activity in the UK. This was characterized by the media as Binance being ordered to stop all activity in the UK. So you can see why people were scared and assumed that meant Binance.com was banned as well. But as we can see, that's not the case. And Binance themselves clarified this by posting this announcement right here on the homepage of their UK site, saying that the FCA notice has nothing to do with Binance.com, their main exchange. So that was a massive misunderstanding, but the big banks still got spooked. Like Barclays decided to block payments from their clients to Binance.com to protect their safety. And then other banks like Santander followed suit. Because of all these moves, Binance suddenly had to stop Great Britain pound withdrawals for a few days until things cooled down. I mean, this whole UK saga was so confusing because Binance had said multiple times before that they're willing to work with regulators. And even a few days before the FCA notice dropped, they got a letter of commendation from the UK Cybercrime Agency, who actually thanked thanked them for their assistance in the fight against cybercrime. So what's really going on here, right? The FCA statement seemed completely out of the blue and unnecessary. But anyways, that's enough about the UK. Let's go on over to Poland, which was also the source of another huge misunderstanding. Because we saw news headlines that were like Poland's financial regulator issued a warning about Binance. And people assumed that they were also cracking down on the exchange. But no, that's not the case at all. They actually stated that the crypto markets are not regulated nor subject to supervision by them, and they just told their citizens to be careful. So much ado about nothing here. But next, let's head on over to the Cayman Islands. And their regulators called SEMA announced that none of the Binance entities are authorized to run an exchange from their country. And they also said that they would investigate Binance and all of its affiliates that may be operating there already. Here's the thing though, Binance came out and clarified that they don't run their exchange out of Cayman Islands, but that they do have entities there for activities not related to crypto trading. This was a little bit surprising because many notable news outlets like Financial Times and Decrypt once reported that Binance was registered there, and that was their HQ as well. But it seems like the Cayman Islands entity may be only for their trademark and other intellectual property, not their actual exchange operations. And this really boggles my mind though, because this is like a real life case of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, but with Binance and their true company location instead. I mean, where do you think their actual base of operations is? I know what I think, and I'll share that with you in a bit. But first, let's head on over to Malta, another country that's been intimately tied to Binance in the past. In 2020, their authorities came out and said that Binance was never approved to operate there. That's when Binance became really evasive about where they were actually based, saying that they only had some customer support and compliance teams in Malta. And actually, I saw a really interesting Twitter thread that dives deeper into this relationship between Binance and Malta. Basically, this guy discovered that Binance has two entities registered there, but when he read their financial statements, he found that neither of them reported any revenue whatsoever in 2018. No profits, no taxes, nothing. So what the heck, right? Where is Binance really based? The plot thickens. But alas, let's end our trip over in Thailand, which actually put out one of the most severe allegations against Binance. Basically, their SEC said that Binance was operating an exchange without a license, and they also filed a criminal complaint plus launched an investigation against them. So if those charges stick, it comes with a fine of around 15,000 US dollars and also a prison sentence of 2 to 5 years. Now, the financial penalty is like pennies to them, but if I were CZ, I would hold off on going to Thailand for a vacation until this is all cleared up. Taking a step back from our around the world trip though, can you see how this wasn't just one isolated incident? This was regulators from all around the world ganging up on poor Binance. But why did this happen, right? And what is Binance gonna do about it? Well, before I get to that, I wanna give a quick shout out to our longtime sponsors, Crypto.com. And I've used their famous crypto debit cards for years now, so highly recommend that. But also their app and exchange are great for trading, earning interest on your crypto, and so much more. If you sign up with my link down below, you can get a $25 bonus. And by the way, unlike Binance, they are not under fire by any regulators. All right, so back to the story. And in terms of the why this is all happening to Binance, there are some super interesting theories out there. Like someone speculated that these are related to all the class action lawsuits that popped up lately. Remember when all the exchanges had outages and server issues as crypto was crashing earlier this year? Well, some traders filed class action lawsuits for that, and Binance was definitely listed. Another theory reminds me of the famous saying, the chickens have come home to roost. Basically, some people say that all of these actions were to be expected because Binance was asking for it. They point out that Binance has been loosey-goosey on regulation in the past and has made some statements about being regulated in some of the countries that they are not. But the last theory is a little bit less harsh on Binance. And basically they're like, look, there are plenty of other exchanges that operate around the world without proper licenses. But are they being targeted? Nope. It's just Binance because they are an easy target. And regulators are just pulling these shenanigans to set an example. It also seems like some of these vague, inconsistent actions against Binance stem from a protectionist anti-crypto sentiment rather than legitimate cases. So those are the theories I just want to share with you that are kind of floating around. Do one of them vibe with you a bit more, or maybe a mix of all three? But either way, the ball is in Binance's court to respond. And respond they did. It started off with an open letter from CZ himself. He said that Binance remains committed to work with regulators around the world. He also pointed out all the work they've done with law enforcement agencies, helping them out with investigations and so forth. One great analogy he brings up is the car industry. He was like, when the car was first invented, there were no traffic laws, traffic lights, or even seat belts. And that over time, those were developed as cars continued to drive on the roads. So he's saying that this is a similar situation for crypto. Like when we first started, there were no regulations or laws surrounding it, so people focused on building and pushing the boundaries. But now that regulators are taking notice, Binance has to evolve and take steps to conform and comply. And that's exactly what they've done. Like in mid-July, Binance said that they would end their stock tokens offering effective immediately. Remember, these are tokens that were tied to stocks like Tesla, Coinbase, and so forth. But regulators were not okay with those tokens, so Binance was like, okay, I'll stop it. Another big step from Binance was to expand their compliance team. They hired a ton of high-profile former regulators as their advisors, like former FATF officials Rick McDonald and Jose Nadeau, and other people like them. And these are just some of the initial steps that Binance has taken. But they will likely do a lot more in the coming months because they know that this is high risk for them and that they have to get compliant ASAP, or else these regulatory actions are just the beginning. But let's set aside all of that though and think bigger. Like, what's the impact of all of this? Well, for Binance, as long as they continue to improve their compliance around the world, they should be okay. For CZ, he should probably avoid some hotspots around the world so that he doesn't get Jack Mod. But he has been more willing to work with regulators in the past, so he probably doesn't have to worry about being arrested like those BitMEX executives. For other crypto exchanges, they definitely should expect more heat like this in the years to come. I mean, Binance is an easy target, but other exchanges will get hit if they continue to break the rules. One thing to keep our eyes on are DEXs too. So far, not too much pressure on them, but that may change in the future, even if they are decentralized. What about Binance Coin or BNB though? Because I know a lot of y'all may be invested in that. Well, I think it'll be fine. I mean, it barely dropped in price during all of this regulatory heat. Meanwhile, Binance continues to innovate and create more use cases for BNB, like with Binance Smart Chain. And also don't forget their periodic token burns too. So yeah, I think BNB will be just fine unless some crazy news drop that many countries are straight up banning Binance. But even if they do get banned, you'll get a chance to withdraw your funds. I mean, that was the case for Ontario and the US as well. So you can ignore those sensationalists saying, withdraw everything ASAP. I mean, of course you shouldn't hold that much on exchanges anyways, but you get my point. Just thinking about this though, I mean, before I did all this research, I thought this whole ordeal was really bad for Binance. But now I think the whole thing is like 50% less severe than what the mainstream media and the Twitterazzi made it out to be. But even though I think they're fine, one big question I really want to find out is, where is Binance based these days? It seems to be not Malta, nor the Cayman Islands, so like where the heck is it? Well, the FATF agency thinks that Binance is based out of Africa these days, specifically the tiny island of Seychelles. That's what they wrote in their report last year, and I think they're right. I mean, if you look at on-chain data from this firm called Crystal Blockchain, it seems to confirm this theory as well, because the Seychelles accounts for a metric ton of overall volume of transactions, and you know Binance has got to be a big part of that. Now for CZ, I have no idea where he's based. It's been a long time rumor that he lives out of a suitcase and bounces from hotel to hotel. Not really a way for a billionaire to live, huh? I don't think he can even step foot in his home country of China nor the US without getting in trouble. Now, not all countries are strict and harsh like the ones I mentioned in this video. I mean, we got El Salvador and other ones who are super friendly to crypto. That's why you gotta watch this video explaining what their legal tender law is all about and how that may impact Bitcoin. Or you should check out this one where I explain the scary headlines that you may see about Bitcoin or Ether options expiring and why they're overblown. Anyways, I'm Kevin from BFB. I can't wait to see you on the next one, and cheers.